We have five people excused plus Caesar. So, do we have any announcements today? Okay, none. Do we have any public comments? We see no public. I have a board comment from someone who's not here. I got an email from one of our board members who would just assume not be mentioned. It was mentioned at one of our meetings that you could buy cheap stamps through Facebook. It was something like $15 for a roll of forever stamps. We were told that this person bought them and they did receive them. I needed to buy stamps and had seen these ads on Facebook. It sounded too good to be true. I Googled this and found out that these cheap stamps are all counterfeit. It is considered fraud to use these stamps, and if caught could mean stiff fines, jail time. Whoa. Definitely not worth the chance. It also stated that U.S. stamps are only sold through the post office or very few approved reputable sources like Walmart or Target. I have no idea if the post office is checking for counterfeit stamps, but again, not worth a chance. So.
I'd like to respond to that.
Okay.
I've been buying stamps through the mail for 2 or 3 years in coils. They don't go for 15 cents. They go for about half price. And they're not counterfeit, they're perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
You buy them from the post office though, right?
It's on eBay. It's through the post office, yes.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
they're only coils of 100, and they're all flag stamps. And I think they just overprinted and people don't use the coils anymore in business. And they're all machine done. But I think that I want to say they averaged about 33 or 4 cents a piece. And I bought hundreds and hundreds of them to use it. Things like Christmas cards, we need a lot of stamps, and that's totally legit. I checked with the post office.
Okay, so just a caution if you're buying stamps to make sure they are legit from this, was concerned. Because there are fraudulent stamps out there, so she wanted to make people aware. All right, so on to the minutes. We need to keep this on the agenda. We need to decide if we're going to change the way minutes are sent out. Currently, they are sent out through the mail. And there's been some discussion about having them emailed to us. So that needs to be on the agenda for next time, if we want to change that policy. However, since you've had a chance to read through these, I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. I think the important thing is we get the minutes to approve at the very next meeting. I know there are some committees that don't get around to approving their minutes for months.
Right.
And you don't remember what happened back then. And so to get it out in some fashion so that at the next meeting we can read and approve them or amend them, I think is important, however you do it.
Okay. All right. Great. All those in favor of approving these current minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, these minutes are approved. Thank you. Okay, new business. We have the pleasure of having Michael Ray Jeffries here today, and he's going to make a little presentation for us.
Yes, but I do have to ask if you can come back to me because we're printing right now.
Okay, we will move
So I might
on.
need just a couple more minutes.
Okay, all right. Moving on to tax advantage for seniors. I noticed several of our board members attended the wonderful presentation that Jack Rabbit and the Board of Assessors presented last Monday. And I would encourage everybody who wasn't there to watch it. There's a YouTube access to it, Lunenburg Access. If you look under BOA program, how we can help. And it gives lots of ideas about how seniors can have help with their taxes. Also, Margaret Scarsdale gave a great presentation about what's going on with she had 5 points about things that are priorities for our legislative group. And I'll get back to one of those when we reach another point about the Neshoba Valley Medical Center. It was a terrific presentation. It was pretty well attended, but I would encourage everybody to go to YouTube and watch it. It has a lot of helpful hints for our seniors and for the board members that came. Elena, you saw that, did you?
Yes, it was outstanding,
Yeah.
and the information that was passed on was very, very valuable. I think a person that does the yoga with me the second day afterwards, I was talking to him, and he had no idea the status, well, first of all, the number of seniors that we have in our community, nor did he realize that there is so many people that need help.
Right.
He was very, very shocked. So it was a great presentation. I learned a lot, and I think everyone should listen to it.
Michael Ray also was a presenter.
Yes, he was.
And his information was helpful. So I really encourage you to watch this. Again, for everybody, if you go to YouTube, Lunenburg Access, and you can find this program under BOA program, How We Can Help. And it was terrific. And I really appreciate how the entire, a lot of the staff helped out. Our new principal assessor gave a little presentation as well. And it was outstanding. So really take advantage of that. It's out there. Update on Lunenburg Master Plan Committee. There was supposed to be a meeting last week. Again, quorum was not reached. I have not heard anything about another meeting. So it's been since, I believe, April that this committee has not met. So I don't have any update on that. But when they meet again, there's not been a real focus on seniors, and I will try to do what I can to change that. Okay, 300th Anniversary Committee. Pete's resigned from that. I remain on that committee. We're meeting in April. But again, we should be very active in that. And so if we have any ideas for things that we can do here, please pass them along to me. I think our seniors should be very active. There's going to be something at least every month, and the more we can participate, the better. Okay, Boston Post Kane. Do we have an update on her?
We have the next in line, and we've heard that she will be willing to accept it.
Okay,
So I was thinking April, we could put something together, have a little celebration here.
okay. Do we have a name?
Mary Bentley.
Oh, she's accepting it. Oh, because she turned it down before. Okay.
Well, apparently she's being strong-armed by family.
Okay.
It's happening.
All right, so she's willing to,
Yes, so
Okay, all
I'll get
right.
in touch with her and find a good date,
okay,
and I'll let everyone know when we plan the celebration.
okay.
And we need to let Pat know too, since all his photographed.
Yes.
Okay. Is she willing to have it here?
I hope so.
Okay,
I'd like to do it here.
okay, good. All right. Current business, discussion of the Neshoba Valley Medical Center. One of the things that Margaret Scarsdale gave us some great information is that they now have a provider. So UMass Memorial has agreed to become a Central Mass provider. They've not agreed on a place yet, so it will not necessarily be, to my understanding, at the old Neshoba Valley Hospital, necessarily. Would have been nice if we had them to be able to step in before they took all the equipment out of there. But step one is a provider, and we have a provider now. So UMass Memorial will be stepping in somewhere in central Massachusetts. And Margaret has a team. She told us about a team that's been put together, and that was terrific news. They have a wonderful team.
And is that for urgent care services only, or?
No, I think they're looking
No,
to,
it sounded like it was going to be full operation.
yeah, they're going to start with urgent care, but
Okay.
they are looking to do a replacement for Neshoba, so it would be
It'd be great.
more services as well. So they understand, and they're really pushing hard on this. So that would be great news. So I think she's gonna keep us updated. I think she has a meeting coming up here sometime this month. She's usually here every month. And
I
we
believe it's
can,
the,
so I'm sure she'll update people. She's very much on top of this. The whole legislative contingent is working hard on this, but she's particularly spearheading one of these movements. I think, what was it, like 15 people?
That's something like
Something
that.
like that. That was, that's heading this up. But
February
anyway,
18th.
February 18th, she'll be here, so if you have questions, you can stop by and meet with her and see how that's progressing. But I thought that was wonderful news.
That's
that
good news.
the provider is the key to that. So, on to COA fiscal year 26 budget.
So I put a copy at each of your seats, and this was prior to Carter leaving. We had gone over the budget, and basically, it's level funded. The only increase is in the salaries. And there's also, in addition to our budget, this is our budget, but they are adding $20,000 to our budget to cover the cost of the Mark Connect. So that's going to be under, that was not under us previously, but it will be under our budget now, but it's not coming out of our current funds. They're adding that $20,000 to the budget.
Okay. What about the kitchen staff?
So we have the assistant meal site manager is leaving this week. I'd like to thank Sandy for her time here with us. And instead of replacing that position, we're going to put the part-time meal site manager and the part-time assistant meal site manager together as one position. That's a 36-hour position. So there'll be somebody here Monday through Friday for breakfast, for lunches, for Meals on Wheels. So we'll be able to offer Meals on Wheels on Fridays as well, which we do not now.
Okay,
Great.
great. So how many staff members will be in the kitchen total?
Well, there'll be, so that's, right now, there's, in this budget is the meal site manager. The other two who are in the kitchen are part-time aides, and they're not paid out of the town budget. They're paid out of the formula grant.
Okay.
We get about $46,000 from the formula grant, and $20,000 of that goes towards the aides. So that's a big hit for us as far as programs, because our entire program budget for the year for everything that we do is $5,000. So any entertainers, I mean, one bus is $1,800. So like I said, we're really looking to our supporters. We're gonna have to look to grant funding. Our budget is very, I mean, I know people that make more in 1 year in their salary than our entire budget. So our budget is an adventure to work with.
Are we considering putting that money into our next budget?
I would love to put the 2 KitchenAids into the town budget, but I'm told on the town side, that's not gonna happen. But I do meet with the finance committee on the 20th, so I would like to put a plea to them
Do it,
and see
do it.
if we can
If
do
we don't
that.
ask, it's
Right.
never gonna happen.
Right, exactly,
So,
exactly.
Do that.
So
When is that meeting?
it's February 20th at 7 PM.
I'd love to go with you.
Come join me.
I'm good at asking.
Dear finance committee, watch out for the Debs.
I've been called honey badger before.
I mean, when you consider the entire town budget, 20,000 is
$20,000
a
is
drop in the
nothing.
bucket, but
It's
it would mean a huge to us, because that 20,000 we could use for Mardi Gras, or putting on a function, or safety measures, or, you know, information, wellness.
These people
Yeah,
should be salaried, there's
Yeah.
no question. They should be
on the town,
on the town budget.
so.
Okay, any questions on any of these? Anybody have a chance to look at this? All right. For those out in television land, our entire budget is $230,000 to run this wonderful place. So if you want to fight for us, please fight for us. Write to your select board, write to your finance board. Tell them we need more money. All right. And we have financial reports.
So the only thing with the financial is, I mean, it's,
We will
We're
have
looking
the
at-
quarter, we'll have one for.
we'll have one next quarter, but I did look at it this morning. Basically, we've got about 2,600 left in the program budget, and everything else is basically exhausted. So from now until June 30th, we've got 26,000 to run any programs we're doing or anything like that.
26,000 or 2,600?
I mean, 2,600. I wish 26,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, $2,600, 2600. So that's basically what's remaining in the budget.
So anybody who would like to make a donation to help out for any programs, or knows of anybody who would like to donate a program or help out, that would be,
And we have reached out to some people that, some of our vendors as well have offered to donate towards like the St. Patrick's Day. We have a big St. Patrick's Day coming up, so that's being funded by one of our partners. So like I said, if anybody has a business and they want to throw an entertainer our way, we would gladly accept it.
okay, great. Not the best news, but we will soldier on, and hopefully our wonderful new Eagle House Supporters Group is gonna see us through. Thank you for them, for sure. Okay, Mark Connect, you said we got $20,000
Added to our budget.
for
Yep.
that.
Yep,
Right,
so
any-
I guess they didn't have a line to put it under, or it was, I don't know where it was in the town budget, but now it's under us.
So what's the story with Worcester? Oh, I did hear from Caesar. Hang on, sorry, I have to get my email here. Caesar wasn't able to be here, but he just wrote me this morning. Sorry. Okay. I want to let you know about the Mart letter. I reached out to Representative Scarsdale and Senator Cronin. They both said that they want to sign on to the letter, so it is with their staff. The letter that you folks wrote is now with
Great, the more
the
support the better.
legislative level. So that's good news. I don't know how much that's going to do, but it helps. So, parking lot update, I wanted to have Michael speak to that. So let's defer that until Michael gets back. That is in the capital plan budget, right?
I believe so.
And I believe that's at the DPW, in the DPW budget for next year, but I wanted to have Michael answer a question on that. So can you move ahead on your report?
I
Right here.
printed out my other thing and I
Right here.
forgot it. So, okay, so the fencing, we're still waiting on doing something with it, making it more camouflaged. The floor replacement, I did hear from Chris Ruth from Facilities, and they're working on that. So every rug in the building will be replaced with a laminate flooring. So it's going to be much nicer and nicer to clean. The kitchen project has been fun. We found out that the water line, the water pipe needs to be an inch bigger. So they're going to be tearing up the floor and doing that. Luckily, it's only like a 5-foot length that we need to go to in order to get that bigger size. In the meantime, we do have all of the equipment. We're just looking at timing right now. So we had an issue with the gas line, but that has been resolved. So now it's just to get everything delivered, rip out what's there, and put it back together. So it'll be great.
projected timeline?
We're still looking at the next couple weeks, ripping it out and getting it done.
Okay.
So, like I said, when we had the issue with the gas, that was going to take more time, but that ended up resolving itself. So now we just have to do the water line. So we just got to get the plumber in there. We have the flooring company all set to redo the floor.
Great.
And then Westerman and Worcester has the range, the counter, the rack, the sink, all of it. So they have it all just waiting for us to say, bring it. So as soon as we get them here, and the town's taking down all the wooden cabinets and throwing all that away. So once we hit that go mark, it's gonna be very quick.
Good.
So, and then the window shades, they're coming. They're coming. I'm told they're coming. Shouldn't be too much longer either. And then the only other thing I want to talk about is some of the upcoming events. So Friday we do have a program with Roger Tink now, and it's music. So we're going to have a Valentine's program, door prize, things going on over there for Valentine's Day. Some little surprises. But I'm very excited about March. So St. Patrick's Day on March 13th is a Thursday. We're going to start with Irish step dancers in the morning at 9 from the Irish Dance Company. We're going to have Lucky Bingo with Bill from the Highlands following at 10:30. At 11:30 we're going to have shepherd's pie for lunch. And then at noon we have the Sons of Blarney. So it's going to be a fun-filled day. And like I said, that's one of the programs where we were able to get someone to fund the Blarney. It was actually Bill from the Highlands is paid for the it's actually Life Care Center of Leominster and the Highlands of Fitchburg are paying for the Sons of the Blarney. So that was really kind of them. And we have on Monday the 17th, the Luck of the Irish. We're going down to the casino, and our Eagle supporters are paying for the transportation to get us there. So everyone's really excited about going down and having a trip, and they're excited that it's just us. We don't have to go pick up another town or anything, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Do you know how many people have signed up?
Right now, the bus is half full. So we've got about 20, 25 seats left. So, and we've got like 4 weeks left, so I'm assuming it's gonna fill up very quickly.
Okay.
And then, like I said, there's a lot of, I wanted to tell everyone too, I left these on your seats. If you go to mycommunityonline.com, you can type in Lunenburg, Mass, and it comes up Lunenburg Council on Aging. You click on that, the newsletter's there online. There's a button on the top right that says subscribe. You will get the newsletter emailed to you the minute I submit it to them. So you get it first thing, yes. So if anybody's interested in doing that, they should go online. And if they want more information, it'll be in the March newsletter. The link's on there. Also in the March newsletter is the link to the town's YouTube. So that information's in there. And then there's information on the Sunshine Club as well. So that's all in the March newsletter. And then we've got some good stuff coming up in April now, because now the March newsletter's out, we're working on April. So things are going along. I've been here 1 month and 2 weeks. And it's been fun and fast. So we're working on that. One of the other good things, we were able to get a Hannaford Charge Cup. So now we can do more checks and balances as far as the money's coming in for meals, the money's going out. You know, we have a spreadsheet that we can now, look and see, what we're spending and what's coming in, so we can have a better idea of what our needs are going to be going forward in the future. So that was a good thing as well. And then and that's about it. The rest of the information's in the newsletter, and those will be available here this week, and they're available online currently.
Okay, I want to reiterate this for our audience. It's mycommunityonline.com. Go to Lunenburg, Mass.
Yeah, it's
And then Lunenburg Council on Aging. we'll bring you copies of our newsletter, and then you can subscribe, and you'll get it every month. So do that, because there's some great stuff out there that you should all be aware of. mycommunityonline.com. Do that. All right, so Michael's still scrambling. I guess he thought we had, sophisticated access like the select board does, where we could show things on screens, but clearly we're not that with it. So do we have an Eagle House supporters report?
Just a couple of things. It's just we have a new Facebook posting on for the Eagle House awareness to the community. I've also done a posting to get new recruits, and we already had 2 successful people that have decided they want to come on board. One of them is Kathleen, which we haven't really met yet. I think they're away still.
She's been in Egypt for 2 weeks.
That's what I thought, yes. And
Everyone must go to Egypt for 2 weeks.
well, absolutely.
Is that Kathleen McGuigan?
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
And then the other one is Lynn Walsh. So, yes. So
Fantastic.
those
She's
are
great.
two.
Oh, that's
Absolutely,
Yeah, she's
absolutely.
terrific.
She's done a lot of good things for our Lake community, so.
fabulous.
And then just a side note, we're trying to do a less paper trail. So we want to just have all of our papers, meeting agendas, meetings, whatever, done on a Google Doc so that we can just all look at them at the same time or whatever. So save it on paper. So that's all we have.
That's fantastic. When's your next meeting?
Our next meeting is going to be March 5th. So,
Thank
and
you.
just to let you know, I'm leaving for a month Friday, so I will not be at your next meeting, but I hopefully will have somebody that will come.
Great. And we have Elena.
And we do have Elena.
Thank you.
So that I really enjoyed your meeting. Your group is fantastic and very excited. Now that they've gone through all the old documents and that is behind them, got a good staff. I thought every single one of them was enthusiastic and really ready to make a difference. So I think they're on now to the fun part. They're beginning to talk about how they can raise money, and there was some brainstorming done on the last meeting, and I guess it will be continued next time. So you guys are doing a terrific job, and we're very thankful.
We're trying.
No, thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
As you can tell, it's needed.
Very well.
$2,600 isn't going to do us
It's
till
not, no.
July.
No.
Thank you. So Michael's back. So I have a question for you. On our agenda is parking lot update. And one of the things, I wish Anna were here because she's been in touch with the Lawrence family about our parking lot. And coming up is I think it's the 10th anniversary of that parking lot, maybe the 20th, I don't know. At any rate, there's a time capsule buried there, and they will be digging that up this year. And Anna has been in touch with them, and we thought, oh, what a great time to talk about maybe moving that, a portion of that for our parking lot, or maybe moving the whole thing to a better location, better in quotes. And she's been in touch with the Lawrence family, but I believe that is in the care and custody of the schools. Is that correct?
You're talking about the land over here?
This land over here that abuts us?
No,
No?
it's in the care and custody of the select board.
Oh, okay, good. All right. So we don't have to wrangle that and get away from the school. With all of the controversy about the building reuse and new schools and all of that, we would have to talk only to the school board, to the select board, not to the schools, to be able to deal with that property, correct?
No.
No? All right.
No, you would probably need to talk to both.
Okay.
The parcel that the schools sit on, it's all one big parcel. So none of this has been subdivided.
Okay.
So the parcel is town of Lunenburg parcel. The school buildings are under the care and custody of the school committee, but we certainly share the parcel. So for example, like the TC Passios building is under the care and custody of the select board, as is the land around it. And
Okay.
so generally, the land around it is what you're talking about.
Yes.
So I think that it would be considered care and custody of the select board, but we share the parcel.
Okay.
So it would likely be both.
Okay, so if we wanted to get some land for our parking lot,
Yep.
we would need to address the school committee and the select board. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that there would be, and I know that Caesar's brought this up to me before about the potential parking lot expansion, and the impact is largely on the building itself in terms of future development of the TC Passios
Right.
building.
Right.
And so and then I know that in this area, some feedback that we received last year from the Agricultural Commission was that they really enjoyed having the fair here, as well as the Easter egg hunt that happens every year. So I think there's probably more interested players than just the school department and the select board.
But wouldn't they love a parking lot for all their activities? All right. So in the DPW budget is, I believe, for this upcoming year, is an architectural plan, which the Finance Committee said that we could not proceed without that. So what steps would be needed other than that at this point to proceed?
Yeah, I mean, really, you just need to have exactly an architectural plan. It's a stormwater plan, is what it really is. So you're adding, paved surface is what the vision is to add paved surface. And so thank you so much for the additional companies. So the plan is to add paved surfaces. That triggers a couple different boards, or not different boards, but it's definitely gonna have to go through the building commissioner and it's stormwater management. So every time you create impervious surface, you have to plan for where the water is going to go. And so what has to be looked at is the current roadway, does it have an existing stormwater plan? Because usually when you start creating new areas of impervious, if you're connecting to areas that are out of compliance, you usually have to bring them up to compliance. And so that's why you go through that first engineering step to figure out what are you trying to do, what are the impacts and everything else. Where does the water go? And then from the end of that, you can figure out, most of the time, it's as simple as just paving the parking lot, connecting it to an existing stormwater catch basins in the area, and it's straightforward. But if there aren't adequate basins in the area, if because of somehow the roof is dumping a lot of water over there, then there would have to be more work done cost-wise to figure out how to do it.
Okay. So the DPW has submitted in their budget, I believe, the architectural plan, or maybe our budget, I'm not working right now. What else should we be doing?
I would be engaging with DPW on that scope of work to make sure it's correct, making sure that it's what you guys are looking for. That if they're looking at parking, we don't have, on the select board, we have not seen a draft budget yet.
Okay.
And so I'm not aware of what's coming out because we haven't seen it.
Okay.
But I know that there are preliminary conversations that happen from department to department with the town manager prior to the budget being presented. So I'm a little bit ill-informed on what's coming. But the usual process is that you engage with the DPW, make sure the scope of work is what you're looking for, that it's looks targeted to the area, and that way when you hire this vendor to come and do these calculations, that it's clear what you want them to do.
Okay. All right. I just don't want to get behind, because that's what keeps happening.
Yeah.
Is we keep getting told we don't have what we need to move forward.
Well, there's going to be, just looking at it, there's going to be impact on the playground, right?
Right.
So I think there's going to be a lot of engagement on the parking lot.
All right. Thank you.
So the previous plan we had for the parking lot, which was going to be behind the building, which included everything you're talking about, all the proper hookups, was a complete architectural plan approved, but it was not funded by the state. Is any of that still of any use?
Largely no,
Yes.
because you've done something different back there now. So largely no. But there may be some helpful information about the side of the building on the existing grades or existing topography. So there may be some helpful information in there.
Chris uploaded it and pretty much looked at it. It's on file with the DPW, and he said pretty much no. You can't use it. But it exists with the DPW, that he pretty much said no. So that was wasted money. Anybody else have any comments? I wish Anna were here. All right, thank you.
All right.
All right, so you have a
Oh,
presentation for us.
I do. All right, so let me see if I can pass this out. And there are a couple of copies we're going to need to share. So if I can pass some down. And I definitely didn't print off enough, so we're going to share.
We share.
All right, so we're gonna share a little bit here, but I wanted to briefly talk about the municipal building design committee. So this presentation that you have, first, it's on the town website, and I can also email it in case it makes it easier to review this later. This is about 40 slides. We're not gonna go through all 40 slides. So I wanted to talk briefly today about why I'm here and what's coming up in this package. So the Municipal Building Design Committee was initially created in, I believe it was 2019 or so. And so we are, based on the town charter, it is a committee that gets created when looking at building something in town. And so based on the charter, it's a representative from the Finance Committee, a representative from the Planning Board, from the School Committee, from the Select Board, and then 3 citizens at large appointed by the moderator. And so our initial task was to look at the building next door, the TC Passios building, and to look at how to consolidate school, town, and community needs. And that project, we worked pretty heavily on that for several years to identify what all those needs and requests in the community were, to really evaluate what the space needs from the town offices and school offices were, and then figure out how to make the building work. Where we landed was the pandemic occurred in this process. As we know, inflation went through the roof, prices went up pretty dramatically, and we were roughly at a $28 to $30 million price tag for the TC Passios building, and it didn't address Town Hall and Ritter Building. The key takeaways from that experience, besides the significant amount of money that we expended, but the key takeaway from that was the code requirements. That, when we were talking about buildings that were built 70 years ago, roughly at that time, that building was about 67 years old. Now it's about 70 years old, 71. The building code has changed dramatically over those years. When now there are new energy requirements, all buildings have to meet new energy requirements, general code requirements, and then accessibility. Accessibility wasn't a thing 70 years ago. If you were in a wheelchair and you couldn't get into a building, you just couldn't get into a building. And so a lot of things have changed. When we figured out the implications of the code requirements, how much was meeting the current building code going to cost? Where we landed was it was about $14 million. So of that roughly 28-30 million, that we were spending half just to meet the current building code. And at the end of the project, the building still looked exactly the same. We weren't touching anything on the facade, it was just changing the use. So when you change the use of a building, it has significant cost implications attached to it. If anyone has done a remodel of their home in the last 5 years, or a significant remodel that affected half the value of your house or something along those lines, then you know that you got hit with this new energy code as well, with all the cost implications. I was speaking with someone in town who thought they were gonna, had a small plan of just adding on an extra room to their house. They said the energy code cost them an extra 70 grand. So it's very costly on some of these code implications. All right, so that's where we landed with the TC Passios. The committee, its charge expanded. One of the things that I think that we heard from the community and also that the committee members thought was that we needed a little bit more scope, that we were looking too small, that if we would be more helpful if we looked at the Ritter Building and the Town Hall and the Brooks House to figure out if are there pieces of the puzzle that we can squeeze in different areas to maximize the use of the available square footage. One thing to note in all of this is that the most expensive thing that we do as a community is buy buildings and build buildings. Nothing comes close to that cost. And so maintaining our buildings is very important. So fast forwarding, so we worked on the TCU Pass Deals, roughly 55,000 square feet. We had a lot of requests. We were at a pretty significant dollar tag. We pivoted, added in additional buildings, and so what we have in front of us today, and I will give you some of the highlights, is a plan to shore up these buildings. So the Town Hall is, as we know, our town departments are spread and split into multiple buildings. If you try conducting business here in town and don't know where to go, it's really confusing, especially if you go to Town Hall, this kind of weather, you gotta walk across the street. All right, so what we're trying to solve is the preservation of these buildings. Ritter Building is about 100 and almost 200 years old, the building itself. But in that location, it's been there since the late 1800s, about 1880. It used to be a church that was moved to that site, lifted up, and the first floor was added to it. The Ritter Building was donated to the town in the early 1900s. It was a resident that lived in town. It was donated in memory of her mother. And at that time, there were a lot of, Carnegie and everyone else were building libraries all over the country. And so very much so followed that Carnegie type style. But we're dealing with two buildings that are very old. The use has changed, and change of use triggers building code. And so we're trying to make these last longer. So if I can draw your attention to this in the most cost-effective way possible. So that's also a critical part. Another part of this is accessibility, that if you currently have mobility concerns, it's really difficult to get into the Ritter Building. It's equally difficult to get into Town Hall and get to the second floor of Town Hall. So in this presentation, if I can draw your attention, and we will have more information about the why, but I want to show you, if we turn to the third page and get to the site plan, and I want to show you kind of what we're talking about in terms of location. So we're looking as an add-on to the Ritter Building. This would be a distinctively different building. One of the requirements of the Department of Interior when you're adding on to historical buildings is that the new building needs to look distinctively different. That you're not supposed to replicate old buildings with making them look old. That they need to be distinctively different and complementary to the existing building. What we see all over the state when people do this is they usually do like steel and glass. They usually do steel and glass structures added on to historic buildings. This is not like that, so if I can again go to the next page, which is a site plan photovoltaic array. That what this plan shows is the parking lot. We see the lot is on 30 School Street area. We see the overall, this is a sky view of the building, and we have a couple parking lots that I'm going to draw attention to. So in the center of town, parking does not need to be located on the parcel so long as it's within some half a mile, I believe. So the Lancaster Ave parking lot gets a little bit bigger, not much, but we create a handicap parking space over here. We create a 15-minute parking space over here that allows people to get into the building. When you have to go to Town Hall, just drop something off or pick something up real quick. It creates parking for that. And then on the area where we see 30 School Street side, we also create another small lot really close to the building, again for accessible parking spaces, also more of those 15-minute parking that allows people to pop in, pop back out. But the major parking lot will occur on 30 School Street, and what we're showing here is photovoltaic arrays. So one of the new requirements in Massachusetts is that all buildings, municipal buildings, need to be designed away from fossil fuels. Now we live in Unitil land, which is some of the most expensive electricity rates we have. And so what we're trying to do in our design here is offset some of cost by having solar panels generate electricity for us to offset the electrical needs. I'm going to go to the next page. So we discussed other sites, and I'll tell you some of the history for why we discussed this site in particular. So in the past, the select board, back in around 2019, did a survey at a town meeting that said, hey, what do you want to do with 30 School Street? And that's really what we were trying to figure out. 30 School Street is where the old primary school was. The results of that survey was that people wanted to see green space in a parking lot, or a parking lot in some version of green space. The options were senior housing, a new town hall, and the survey results were overwhelmingly a parking lot and green space. And so that is why, in part, the select board did not consider this as a site for a new town hall. It was a result of a survey. Also, when we looked at the right side of the building and tearing down the addition that was done in the 60s and doing this add-on there, the limitations that come from that are that it really eats the intersection at that point. You have a building in really close proximity to the intersection. Parking is now twice as far away to get to, and so it just made the most sense to do this add-on onto the other side of the building. All right, so if I can now go through the next slide here, and this shows you a top-down view of the first floor, and I'm going to explain this one to you a bit. So the entire footprint and the new town hall is a building on the left, and there is a connector here, and I'll explain that in a moment. So we have our existing Ritter building, which again, it's kind of sitting 6 feet above the ground level, so 6 feet above grade. When you walk into this building, it's again, we know that the basement or lower level is half buried in the ground. And so it's not accessible. The accessibility comes in that add-on that we have. And that's where, so essentially we're dealing with 3 different levels here in a very short area. So I'll just briefly explain what the concept is, and we'll just go through this. So the concept is all these entrances are accessible. So that's one thing that is a huge improvement. And so on the right side, you're looking at school district. The Ritter building would become the school district office, fully and totally. And then the left side is the new town hall. And what we're showing is, most people, if they're parking on School Street, you're coming in that side entrance. We met with the different departments. One of the requests was to have the treasurer tax collector closer to the door than the town clerk, that most of the traffic coming in town hall, a lot of the traffic goes straight to the tax collector's office. So there was thought put into proximities, adjacencies. We see that we have the town clerk space, which, if anyone's been in that office area, we know it's floor to ceiling for the most part with storage, and the registrar's office. So this area gets a little bit bigger. And the assessor's suite grows a little bit better to accommodate the people that are there. We have restrooms, and then we have an elevator right in the center of the hallway. So these are all functions that currently happen at Town Hall, at the Ritter building, and at TC Passios. So these are all functions that already happen in existing town buildings, and it's creating a home for all of these things to occur. The pass-through or the connecting. So even when you come out of Ritter building, there's still a grade difference to the new town hall. And so what we've done here is connect the 2 buildings with a slight ramp, and that allows then their ability to remove some additional staircases that are now in the back. It provides better egress out of the building for anyone on the school side to get out, but we do have doors there. So it's not like you're going to come in and just be able to pass through. It will be Town Hall, Ritter building. They will be connected, but they will be distinctively different. We can skip by the next slide because it really just goes about square footages. And then the next one is the upper floor. And the upper floor of the buildings shows on the Ritter side, this is where the superintendent's office will be. This is where they have a lot of admins and kind of a bullpen area, their HR, different roles. And then on the town side, what we have is many of the functions that currently are at Ritter building. So these are the inspectional services departments. This is where we see Board of Building Commissioner, Board of Health, Planning, Conservation. It's in a layout that we've discussed with these departments that's a little better organized for them. And then also, again, more restrooms. When we see the word MEP, we're talking about mechanical, electrical, plumbing. These are those rooms that are in every building but that's what we mean here. So again, every function that currently exists in Town Hall, in Ritter, in TC Passios, it consolidates them into a new Town Hall and new school district office. So going into the next slide that says Ritter Memorial and Town Hall basement floor. So one of the requests coming from the PAC and the select board was to create a studio for PAC. And so what we've done is we were looking at when you're building up, it costs more than digging down. And so digging and some of the requirements from PAC were that they didn't really want windows, they needed somewhat taller ceilings, and so it's more cost effective to dig down than to build up, given that those needs are there. So we do show PAC there. We also have the larger mechanical room in the basement. It takes it out of prime real estate on the first floor, it puts it into a lower level or the basement area, and we have our elevator control room as well. So we also show unexcavated areas, and part of this is we're trying to keep a certain distance away from the Ritter building. When you're digging, we're still going to have to do certain things to shore up the foundation of the Ritter building, but we're digging lower than the foundation of the Ritter foundation. And so there's an area around the Ritter building that won't be touched, just for site preservation purposes. So if we can skip ahead to what is now Town Hall from Mass Ave. This is a front view of what this building will look like. So one of the considerations was, we know that School Street is an awkwardly shaped road, right? So we're not exactly at a 90-degree intersection here. But what we wanted was that from the front of the building, that they look largely the same. That from the front it looks more like a U, that the building doesn't look too off canter or off tilt. But as we go down School Street, we can see the unique design of the building. That side entrance, again, allows us to have a lot more room on the back end of the building that's not so visible from the street, just to keep the symmetry of the two sides of the building. And then the next one just kind of shows like 300th anniversary or 4th of July, like how you can decorate it. It's just, again, to highlight and show. Now, one of the things I'll highlight on this slide is what is the front steps of the Ritter building. So those initially were steps leading up there that were removed. Now, if we were to put steps back, we have to put a ramp. And a ramp will take up a significant amount of space. And so what we've done is a treatment that looks like a step, but that tells everyone this isn't a way into the building. And it allows it to be a seating area for the community, for staff to be able to utilize. It really just helps take care of what we call the wound on the building, which is the removal of those stairs. It just looks like something's missing every time you drive by the building. The next page just kind of shows what that town hall porch is going into the front door. Again, we don't expect many people will go into the front door. They're likely going to go in the side door. But we try to be mindful of cost here, that we didn't want this to look like the first bank of Lunenburg. And so we wanted to be in line with what the center of town currently looks like, and somewhat, now I wouldn't say mimicking, but somewhat mirroring it, being complementary to the current look in the center of town. But again, you just kind of see that we do have this covered area. This is, the next page is the view of School Street. And so if you're coming up on School Street from the parking lot into the side entrance, this is kind of what that view would be. So again, you can see from the back side, it is a different shaped building, but again, from the front, it all looks a bit more symmetrical. The next slide, or the next page, is what it looks like when you walk in that front door. And it's the interior perspective. So you see the staircase that goes upstairs. The architect really did a great job of just incorporating little kind of tidbits like the map of Lunenburg in here, or the seal of Lunenburg throughout. We have a couple different photos that are currently in Town Hall that were replicated here. So these are kind of cool little tips. But what you see here is you see a common hallway. When you walk in this front door, on the right-hand side is the assessor's office. We have more glass, which helps get natural light into the center of the building. And as you keep walking down again the front corridor, you go into what would be the town clerk area, as well as the accounts payable tax collector area as well. Yes?
Is there an elevator?
There is.
Okay.
There's an elevator right in the middle of the building.
Okay.
Yep. So it's a little hard to see, but this next slide actually is what it looks like walking off the elevator on the second floor. So if you were to come right out of the elevator on the second floor and and look to your right, you're looking toward Mass Ave. We've created a waiting area here, and then right to your left, that glass panel area, that would be the building commissioner's office. And then right behind you, if you take a left and go the other way, you'd be looking at where the conservation agent would be and the planning department would be. And we're looking to consolidate them in this new building plan. So again, we're incorporating natural light where feasible. When we think about glass and the use of glass in buildings, long term, it's a lot cheaper than drywall because you don't have to paint it every so many years. It doesn't get dinged up like everything else does, and usually, yeah, exactly. You don't have to worry about the mold. So it's just, and again, transparency in government. I think it sends a good image as well. So this next slide, it shows the entrance into the Ritter building. So we're all familiar with what the Ritter building side looks like now. So what this does is it creates more separation between those entrance doors to allow them to be accessible. And one of the concepts of design is that you start at the same place. So you start at the base of these stairs or the base of this sloped walkway. And if you are accessible, if you have accessible needs, that you start there and it kind of wraps around. So what we have is we're using existing field stones that are already at the Ritter building and reconfiguring them into somewhat of a terrace. And a sloped walkway that doesn't require the ramp. Instead, you can have like that little curb there. So someone with a stroller, someone in a wheelchair, you start at the same point and then you land at the same point before you go into the building. So it goes away from this idea that, hey, if you're handicapped, make sure you take that side rope, come in the back door, hopefully someone knows you're there. And instead it puts everyone, and this is also, again, building code requirements, everyone comes in this, has the dignity of walking in the front door. So that's what this photo displays, or this rendering displays. And then the next one is when we get into the meeting house, and there's a couple things here. So the current town hall, and I'll pause here for any questions on the Ritter building new town hall. Hopefully this is all clear just as a concept. Any questions on the concept? All right. So what do we do with the, yes?
Michael, one thing, I think this is what Steve Walker was waiting to talk to you at the last meeting. Is this going to be presented as a whole project?
Yes.
Not packed separate?
Correct. A whole project. Yeah. So what we have next is what happens to the existing town hall. And the concept we came up with was a meeting house. That the existing town hall would function as a meeting house. And the rationale behind this was, number one, replicating, in this design, we currently have 2 meeting rooms in the Ritter building that are going to go away in this concept. And so we need to replicate that space. Right now in the town, the most meetings we have on any night is about 5. And so we have a need for, on certain nights, up to 5 meetings. We can accommodate some of them at the library, but there's certainly a need to have meeting space as well. So the town hall footprint, as we know, it's smaller. And so separating out the meeting space from the office space, it allows us to heat and cool a much smaller building rather than having to worry, keep the whole thing. And it just separates these kinds of functions. It also allows for future growth if needed. So just walking through this building, it largely will look the same. And so in terms of, you come in the front door, and right now with the town clerk's office is what's called conference room B. And that's also where the copy room is. Conference room A is where the treasurer, tax collector, payroll benefits manager is. Conference room C is where the assessor's office is. And then we add in some bathrooms. We also put in a new lift into the town hall. On the second floor, when you walk up, we remove the offices, and so it becomes one kind of common gallery type space. And in the hearing room, which now we lost some square footage when we added in the town manager's office and the HR office, we removed those. And so we keep that historical footprint on that second floor, and that becomes again the primary meeting space. So a couple functions. Now when we go to the next page, what it's showing is how we're going to address the ADA accessibility into the building. So a couple things. We have a ramp right now that goes on the right side of Town Hall. It's not on our property.
There's no step.
Coming through the front door, there's a step there now. So what's being proposed is a regrading of the entire sidewalk area, so that way you can come straight from the sidewalk into the building, and you no longer have that step, which becomes a issue if you're in a wheelchair or you're pushing that kid's stroller. And then I'm not going to go through too much of the next few slides, but what they depict, and if you want to kind of just skip through several of them and get to what's called Meeting House Structural Renovations for Leveling and Column In-Bearing Protection. And what this is a view of is the basement of Town Hall. So this is taken kind of below the stage area, below the tax collector's office, looking toward the front door. So how was Town Hall built? It's tree trunks from the 1800s that hold the building up. So it's a pretty cool design. The issue, of course, is that they're not level. We have a dirt floor down there, and it's a dirt floor covered with plastic. So when we're in that building, we know how uneven it is. And in one of the slides coming up, which we'll get to it, but all the staff have to prop up their desks to keep them level. So they basically do like a wad from one side to the next, so that way the desk doesn't rock. So there's a lot of, the floors are not level in that building at all. And so what needs to be done here, and this just kind of goes into how you shore the building up, is that it's a lot of lifting and resupporting and dropping all over the basement to get that first floor level again. Because again, I think what we see in gradient from one office to the next, even in your own house, we all know that like houses settle. But what we're talking is from, let's say, this wall to right here, you have a difference of sometimes 4 to 5 inches, which is pretty significant. So there's a pretty significant grade issue, even within offices themselves. If we kind of just fast forward, and I don't want to, again, this isn't to scare anyone, it's to highlight why we're doing this, is that we do have some structural concerns. And I just want to go to the, if we can go to the page that says attic repairs. And this photo, and if it was in color, you'd be able to see it a little better. But we do have a couple areas in the attic that need to get fixed. We have some rotting wood up there. We have some rotting posts, rotting beams. We're missing some members. And so if we want the building to continue to be utilized, we have to get rid of that wood rot. When you look at the front of Town Hall, you can kind of see right in the middle above the doors, it kind of looks like a little bit of a sag area. And that photo is basically what's called a rotted spandrel beam. It's because we have a rotted beam right there. And so what this does is, again, it helps address some of that stuff. Now, Ritter Building is built for libraries, and again, I don't want to bore you with too much detail, but every type of structure has a different pounds per square foot in terms of like how sturdy does this building need to be. Your home is built for like 40 pounds a square foot. Libraries are built for like 300 pounds a square foot because books are heavy. And so this building is well built. It has really good bones to it. And so it doesn't need as significant of a renovation to the structure. You don't have to re-level this building. It's really because, again, the plumbing is at this point 110 years old. The electrical is very old. And once you pull all that stuff out, you're opening up all the walls, you're hitting the energy code, you have to insulate this a bit better. But the Ritter building is in generally good condition overall. And it's just, yeah. So I think that what we show here in the last couple slides is just that the new building will be a steel frame building that a lot of, even though we live in New England, we do get earthquakes from time to time. And so all buildings of this size have to have essentially seismic bracing that you have to plan for earthquakes now with buildings. And that again adds to cost, whereas at your house, you don't have to do this. You can just do your wood frame house and it's good to go. So more information will come out about this project over the coming months, but I wanted to present it to the committee just to give you awareness that we've been working on this now for 5-6 years. We are close to the finish line on this. This again, it helps create accessible space and it really resolves this building issue for many, many years to come. From a cost perspective, what we calculated was that the labor cost for all these buildings is roughly $13.5 million, but the real cost comes in somewhere a little north of 20 million, and it's because we have prevailing wage. When you build a building of this size, you have to hire a state basically project manager to oversee the whole thing. The way that the state designs buildings, so much percentage goes to the architect and the architectural design team. So you get a lot more cost than if you were to do this at your own house. You can certainly do everything cheaper yourself than the government can. But over the next couple of months, what we're going to continue to work on is the presentation to the community, these cost implications, understanding the grants that are available and that are out there for some of these. Like, one of the things in the Inflation Reduction Act is if the administration funds it, right now it's on hold, but they will pay for 75% of the cost of solar panels for municipal entities. And so like that's one of those things where we know like money could help offset. And then there's other grants that are out there that we could tap. But again, we just got to this point about a week ago, and so the next work is to figure out all the cost implications. Certainly this will impact everyone's tax bill. This will likely be a 20-year bond type situation, but we're also crunching all those numbers now to figure out what those cost implications exactly are. But once we resolve the needs of our town, from my view, it puts this on the back burner. We've never built a town hall as a community. It allows us to build a town hall. It allows us to future-proof some of this stuff, to plan ahead, but also say we don't have to touch this for another 100 years or more, which I think is the position we all want to be in. A lot of words, a lot of information.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Comments?
I've watched this presentation 3 times. And I think it's terrific.
Thank you.
I just seen this town. I've been here since '64, and it's gotten more and more deteriorated. Buildings gotten less available. But 2 questions. We have a tremendous number of people in this town that have not been here very long,
Yeah,
and so their concern is just going to be financial.
correct.
Any idea what kind of impact this is going to have on the average tax rate?
So not yet. We just got the cost estimate last Monday, and so right now the town accountant Izzy is working on what the current bond rates are, what the implications are to the average tax payer.
And secondly, heaven forbid it doesn't pass, what's your next step?
Well, Michael Ray comes off the select board in May.
We know where you live.
I think many of you know that what I do for a living professionally is managing buildings and redevelopment. And the hardest thing is that I think we went into this with the approach of cost effective, need to have, not want to have. And so I feel confident that, this is this presentation from the architectural team. There's another presentation that we're working on the municipal building design, which explains some of the square footages in more detail of what do we currently have, what does this suggest that we're going to have. My main concern is that every 2 years, and I'm going to do this in 2-year increments because it's a little easier for the math, roughly construction costs increase at generally twice the rate of inflation. So if inflation is 2.5%, construction's usually about 5%. And so every 2 years, you get a 10% roughly increase. So the way that I think of it is every 2 years that goes by, for the same cost, the building needs to get 10% smaller. Or the same cost, same size, the building gets 10% more expensive every 2 years that goes by. And so if we're talking about 20 million, 21 million today, in 2 years we're talking about 23, 24, in 4 years we're talking about 26, 27. I mean, unfortunately, I think from my lens, this is one of those things that we must do. And I think that we have to educate the population on why, if you keep putting paint on buildings, everyone thinks they look great and that these buildings are functioning well. And if you work in these buildings, if you work in Ritter Building when it snows right now, like you're getting snow in your office, right? I mean, if you're working in town hall, you get wasps in your office, you smell the dead rats and dead mice in the walls. It's very uneven. So these aren't buildings that people enjoy working in. I think that people enjoy driving by them more and looking at them more than anyone actually likes working in these buildings. And so we do have, even the second floor, if you watch our meetings at night, we're all freezing in there. And we start putting our coats on about 8 o'clock because it's just so drafty and it's not a well, I mean, you go in the attic, you can literally see outside. So that, like, these are buildings that I think we need to open them up to the public. I think we need to have people tour them and get into the spaces that they don't normally get into, such as the basements, such as the attics. I think that we have to inform the public, again, explaining why we are doing this when communities grow. And Lunenburg has been, for several years, one of the fastest growing communities in the state. But when communities grow, the departments that tend to grow, as we know, are your service departments. That you're going to have more on the Council of Aging, the library is going to grow, you're going to have your inspectional services, people are building, you need more people who can inspect what they're building. And so I think that we've planned this in a very smart way, but the real answer is if it doesn't pass, I think that it would be wise to keep trying, but you're going to keep trying it again every 2 years. It's roughly a 10% increase, 8 to 10% increase in cost.
And you never mentioned the Passios building.
So the Passios building, yes. So part of what we are looking at in this phased plan is that we like certain functions of the Passios building. It's where people go to vote. It's where we have a food pantry, and the vision is that we got to a point where we recognized that whatever happens on that building is tied to Turkey Hill. That if the school department comes out and says, we need a new school in 10 years, that they need to figure out where is that school going to be at. Now, I may have my own opinions about what I think people should and shouldn't do, but it's ultimately not up to me. And so the site becomes potential location for a new school. It becomes a location for future fields. But in the planning that we have now, it is a community center. That we would preserve the front portion of the building, tear down the middle and north portions of the building, but we're tying it to the school committee is right now working on a building system plan for Turkey Hill. We've had many conversations, and something that I say, and I don't want to take any credit for this, but something that I say is that we don't have a problem with what to do with old town buildings. We have a problem with what to do with old school buildings. And that it's been the case with the primary school, the Tennessee Passios, the Brooks House, that we need to maintain these buildings better. And I know that what the school department is doing is a thorough assessment of the Turkey Hill to figure out what they need to do to maintain that building. For context, when the TC Passios went from the school care and custody to select board care and custody, the roof was already 10 years past the replacement point. The boilers were already well past replacement point. So buildings that get turned over for municipal use that are already well past their lifespan, they sit there for 10 years while they figure out what they need to get done to them, and they just continue to rot and deteriorate, and then nothing happens. And so I think the school committee is trying to be better about Turkey Hill and figuring that out, but depending on what they say, that's going to tie into what happens at that lot. And then we have a request from this group to build a parking lot in this area. So it all kind of ties in together as well. Yep. I know this is a lot of information.
Thank you. Thank you. It's important. Definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Again, you have the presentations. You have my email address and my phone number, hopefully. Feel free to call me if you have anything I can help explain. More information will be coming out on this over the coming months. Thank you for so much time.
No, thank you.
Would you like these copies back?
No, please keep them. You might spur some thoughts, and then and feel free to reach out.
Would Pat be able, when this goes out on YouTube, to put these slides in while Michael's talking? So if I leave these with Pat, that would be great. That would be great.
Yes, I did email them to Ms. I want to say her last name, Beavis? Beauvais?
Oh, okay, yep. If you email them to Joe Toll, maybe we could drop.
Jamie had, Joe has them as well.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll
send them after
So if Joe
this,
has
though.
them, we can drop them in, and then when it goes to YouTube, that would be great. Then they can see what Michael Ray is talking about, instead of just pretending.
Well, everything has already been out on the select board
Right,
meeting.
but if when we're discussing it in this meeting, for those folks that aren't up to date on this, that would be great. All right, any other comments? All right, any board comments on anything? All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we are officially adjourned at